Alright guys, today we'll watch this video by Games from Scratch. So we'll talk about Unity vs Godot. Again, something that we talked about previously in a very short term of which engine you should choose. Again, to clarify it, if you want a light framework, if you want an open source, yet not many people use that advantage a lot, and if you want something decently good for commercial games, not across different platforms, for 2D games we could I think Godot is one of the best options to do that. If you want something stronger, could work with cross platforms, better in handling mobile phones and stuff like that. Good for 3D, better in 3D in all different ways. Of course, you should go with Unity, and if you want a very realistic video game that's 3D, I don't advise either Unity or Godot. You could go for Unreal Engine. So, with the new updates of Godot 4, who is better? What advantages exactly in more specification could work through?
Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and let's do something completely free of controversy. What we're going to do is decide which is the better game engine, Unity or Godot. Okay, first off, there is no best engine. Some engines are better.
It's not the best engine, it's what's best for your current scenario and the current project you are working in. So there's absolutely nothing of what's the best engine is. Like, of course, you can make good graphics in the three engines, Unreal, Unity, and Godot, but which one would render you the best graphics that could benefit your visual direction the most? Usually it is Unreal Engine, for example. Between Unity and Godot, usually it's Unity because it have a very decent render pipeline, better than the Godot one. So it's just what's better for your case scenario right now, not what is the best engine in all.
Suited for some people and for
That's
some.
why people usually even do and develop custom engines, especially big AAA studios.
Tasks, while other engines are suited for different things. So some people could think that Godot is the greatest game engine in the universe. Other people can think the same thing about Unity, and both would be right. Now that makes for a pretty useless video though. So what I instead am going to do is look at 6 pros for each of those game engines. So if you're trying to decide between Unity or Godot in 2025 or beyond, hopefully this will help you. I'm also going to look at 3 cons. That means no matter how you look at it, I am going to be either praising or insulting your game engine of choice today. Do keep in mind, I try to be as
of course, to choose the better one for your project, you need to know the pros and cons of every game engine. It's, again, you could possibly work with different engines in your career, so it's not a war, guys. It's just what's best for your scenario. All engines are good engines, good developed, amazing tools, to be honest, but it's just what is the best case scenario for your current project. So don't be like hesitant to take the cons of each engine seriously, because again, the people that are working on these projects are still human and make mistakes and do not develop something that is alien-like and have no flaws. Usually you will find the cons in every software, just which one is best for your current situation.
Unbiased and critical as possible in this video, but I'm no doubt going to offend some people, and hey, that's the nature of the beast. So if you're trying to decide between Unity or the Godot game engine in 2025 or beyond, hopefully this helps you. Let's start off with the pros. We're going to start off with Unity first. We're going to go back and forth, ping pong back and forth between the different game engines. Pro number 1 when it comes to Unity, and this one is a big deal, and it's battle tested. There used to be an expression back in the day, no one ever got fired for choosing IBM, and there's a lot of logic behind that. Basically, it means it will work. You know Unity will make the game.
Yeah, again, but I think Godot got a very decent battle testing throughout the years that's been famous. Like, it's not like zero tested like a custom game engine that you just developed. We're talking about a game engine that's been around more than a year, so it was tested, and most of my experience says it is decently battle tested for now. There is some problems, but there is no much critical issues, and most of the critical issues were fixed immediately. So yeah, but yeah, Unity for cross platforms, accessibility throughout cross platforms is better battle tested.
You want because it's already made it, most likely. So you've got some very successful titles out there that have been developed using Unity, and this gives you kind of a peace of mind. You choose Unity, you know others have achieved.
Yeah, and see, this something give you a feel of safeness. Like if you saw that animal in the first like cutscene, this animal right here, you know in Unity you could do it using I forgot the name of the software. There's a software that simulates the muscle and bones and fur for the creatures that is usually used in cinematography inside engines like Unity. It was shown like in Unreal, for example. Tech demo of The Witcher also was there in Unity for a very long time. I just forgot the name of it. So you know this feature is applicable, and you know if there was issues, it's not from the engine, usually it comes from your tool. But in Godot, you don't know if you faced some errors or stuff like that when you try to applicate something as complicated as this, which is usually something only for big projects, especially 3D stuff. So this is something that you could say it's better battle tested than Godot.
X, Y, or Z, because it's all out there. It is among the most battle tested game engines available. So that is a huge plus for Unity. Now, what about Godot? Well, obviously, let's start with a very simple one to understand. Godot is free. And when I say free,
yeah, again, but this is something that many people don't understand well. Most game engine threshold, most people don't even hit it. And like for Unreal, when you look and say 5% royalty after $1 million, this is if you did not buy a seat. You can't either then, if you know your project is that big of a scale, you can just don't give them the 5% and buy a seat for like over $2,000 as I recall. And for Unity, the percentage on the subscription, yeah, they did a stupid thing with the, which is why people are now discussing why Godot is free and stuff like that, because Unity published the stupid, before CEO, he's a stupid CEO, one of the stupidest men I've ever seen. He did like a new royalty based thing for Unity, which damaged the reputation of it, of like they take per download or stuff like that. So it was heavily criticized of how stupid system that was, how greedy stupid system it was. So yeah, that's why people are not discussing this, but usually the royalties coming from Unity and Unreal comes even from tools like, for example, WYs and other tools that take the same percentage. Or if you don't want to give a percentage, if you have like a multi-million revenue video game that could be published, have a potential of a multi-million dollars, you can just buy a seat. So and you're gonna pay royalty, whether you like it or not. You're gonna pay for Steam, for a publisher if you have one, for tools if you cannot afford the seat. So there's nothing actually free, guys. You need to understand that. You will not develop something free out of nowhere. You would need a budget, especially for a very big video game. And if it was not from a budget, you would spend time that is wasteful compared to the budget that you could spend.
I mean, all of the frees. Free is in beer and free is in freedom. It is free and open source. It is under the MIT license, which is a very liberal license.
Free and MIT license, that's something, we can't call it free, we can call it like open source. And this is an amazing thing, because it means you can't change the code of the engine itself, which is an amazing thing to do, by the way. It means it could be customizable. It means that different versions of the Godot could be published. It means that people are gonna support it just like how Blender is supported, because Blender is really highly adjustable, just like Godot could be.
In terms of what it lets you do with it, you don't need to give your code back or anything, although obviously it would be nice to contribute it back if you could. At the same time, you pay absolutely nothing. Asterisk caveat, there are some things you potentially pay for. We'll get to that later on in the cons section, but pretty much Godot is as cheap as a game engine can get, which is pretty sweet. And again, completely open source, which is a big deal. All right. Next up, Unity. This one I actually think is one of the secrets of Unity's success, and I've said this for ages, and it is the asset store. Unity has the largest asset store.
Yeah, and it's, again, most developers have their own self-made asset library. It's not just about the asset store that make people don't want to change for Godot. It's because they already have a self-asset library that is very big to actually change for Godot. So yeah, Unity have a very huge, tremendous, like what the fuck type of asset store. Not just about assets like 3D ones and 2D ones. We're talking about amazing tools, audio inspector, multiple amazing magical clothes and stuff like that. There are multiple amazing tools that even Unity themselves sometimes buy and integrate in their own engine like Cinemachine. So yeah, that's something to put in mind.
Like a country mile. You can get anything you need for Unity. So even if you don't want to create something yourself, or you can't create something yourself, there's a pretty good chance that you can just buy it. You can find assets in every single art style you can imagine. You can find AI systems. You can find tools that improve Unity. All of these things are available on the asset store, the largest asset store by far. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of fragmentation in the Unity Asset Store because of the various different pipelines and versions and so on, but by far and away...
Yeah, it's more confusing. That's something people don't understand. Unity is more confusing. Having different render pipelines and different versions, it's very confusing, by the way.
Most comprehensive asset store out there, and you do again kind of get some peace of mind out of this, because again, if you can't do something, you don't have the time to do something, or you simply don't want to do something, there's a pretty good chance you can just pick it up on the asset store. Now, Godot Pro number 2, it's developing incredibly quickly. Now, it's the youngest of these game engines, so that makes a lot of sense. So the more features every release, but it's staggering how fast Unity is improving and how many Godot is improving and how many new features you get in each new release of Godot.
But again, as he said in the first point, this is country due to Godot being underdeveloped. So multiple big features are getting installed in the engine because they are missing features, not new features to add, like for example Unreal Engine, which there is nothing in Unity for a very big time till Unity 6 enhancing the render pipelines and the optimization of video games. But like for Unreal Engine, when they're launching new amazing features for their engine, it's not like that. It's more like they have a missing feature that they do, which is great. We need a stable version for Godot as soon as possible, because it's gonna be an amazing version.
I liken this to Autodesk versus Blender. Now, you see a new update of 3D Studios Max or Maya. It will add, 3 or 4 new marquee features, and maybe that's it. Whereas you get a new Blender update, it's got like 30 or 40 new features. It's the same deal in Godot. Godot is improving at a staggering rate, and so that's one of those things. Each new version brings a lot to the table, and that's not necessarily something that you see in the world of Unity. Now, Unity Pro number 3. It has a large community, and this actually has a couple of results or benefits.
It's not just that people gonna help you if you were a beginner. It means that for companies, it means that they can hire more people, more experienced people in the field. Like Godot, because Godot is new, most people expertise in it is 1 to 3 years max. Some people are almost 5 years max. But in Unity, you could see people with over 10 years of experience in the engine, and multiple people, and a lot of people are gonna go for, because it's like a very big community, a very huge community, gonna go and do maybe for some new teams. They are specialized more. Like you see, someone is specialized in art inside Unity and how to manage the assets. Someone is more into the coding of systems and making them scalable. And this is important, especially for less big of a team, not a very big title. So that's why a huge community is something. But also, I'm not saying for Godot that thing is getting famous. Just like people are still figuring out how to get the most of the engine, because they just went into it. So but the community of Godot is totally also huge, and is couldable to be compared with Unity.
Benefits from it when it comes to
It's like Godot is an amazing engine that just need more time to grow, in my opinion. It's an investment for the future.
hiring people, it's easiest to find Unity developers. When it comes to getting documentation or training or anything like that, certification, etc., there is this huge community out there. There are books, there are courses, there are all of these things. The largest community of game engine users is Unity, bar none. There are more people using Unity to create games than any other engine out there. And obviously that goes to if you need to find help or search for another problem, or since so many people are using the engine, you can find all of these things. So that is definitely an upside in the world of Unity. Now when we go back to Godot, upside number 3 or pro number 3 is programming options. And this is actually a really cool aspect of Godot. So at the core,
it's two things in like Godot. They have like an built-in code editor, and also two supported languages. Yes, Unity have a support for Java, but it sucks. They have C# support and GDScript support, which is amazing. GDScript is just like Python in my opinion. It looks, when I used it, I remembered Python for some reason. So yeah, the syntax and the way it's being used more like Python and C#. So it's an amazing thing, to be honest.
Godot is written in C++, but you can use a programming language based vaguely on Python called GDScript to do a lot of your game logic. But on top of that, they have a full-blown extension system called GD Extension. And through the GD Extension, people have written support for pretty much every language you can think of. You've got a version of C++ with live hot reloads. You've got Rust, you've got JavaScript, you've got Lua. All of these languages are available. Unfortunately, the visual scripting language that was built to Godot was Axe, because honestly it wasn't very good. But there have also been visual programming languages added inside of the engine through GD extensions. Also, by the way, this is true of the marketplace as well. Kind of goes back to my point about the asset store in Unity. There are a number of visual programming languages like Bolt, etc., that were created and used, and ultimately Unity bought that and made that available free. So there are a number of programming options on the Unity side, but Godot definitely has that beat. They've also got C# support out of the box, which is like 95% of the way there. It's so frustrating that it's not quite 100 yet, but if you want to use multiple different programming languages, that
again, it's a very big move for Godot to make the C# one 100%, because most of people that want to transmit their framework asset library, self-made asset library from C# to Godot, it would be easier when Godot supports all the inspector features and all the code C# integration into Godot itself.
Where Godot really shines. And then we're going back to the pro for the Unity game engine. Well, here is platform support. And this one is, they're a big company and they deal with other big
companies. The platform support in Unity is just, what the fuck at this point, to be honest.
On a one-to-one basis. That means, let's say Nintendo is bringing out the Switch 3. They will have that technology so that when it launches, or when the SDKs to develop games launches, Unity will support it. So if there is a new VR headset, Unity will support it. Day one support for basically any hardware out there, I don't think you will find better than Unity and Unreal. So those two, just based on the nature of them being just so big of players, every hardware manufacturer reaches out to them to make sure that their hardware works with the Unity game engine.
Yeah, and that's the difference. It's like the companies come to make it work, or it's P2P. As for Godot, it's usually gonna be someone reaching to the companies to support them, which would be a bit take more time to Godot to make multi-platform support. It's many game developers won't think it's an important thing until they hit a deal with a publisher and they require them to publish it on different platforms. Again, in the gaming industry, we want to get the best content and the best value of amount of players as possible when we are making a game. So we cannot just like, ignore consoles or ignore stuff like that, or mobile support. So always think for the future, guys.
If you're looking to support as many platforms as possible, Unity really shines here. And then one of the really big strengths, and this is kind of a weakness on the Godot side, is you've got day one console support, PlayStation, Xbox, etc. Obviously, so if you want to develop console titles or console first titles, that's a big plus in the world of Unity. All right, another pro / minor con for the Godot game engine is, well, Unity has more people using it. I would argue that the people using the Godot game engine are more zealous about it, are more helpful.
I don't understand this. Like, it's a new industry. Of course, some tools, some stuff, and it's a very new industry, by the way, compared to architecture and other industries. Of course, the community is not as big, and the support is not as big, and the stuff like that is not as big, and different tools gonna have different user bases. It does not have anything of is the engine bad or not, to be honest. So I don't really understand how is that a criticism to the tool itself.
Are more of a community. There is a very zealous community behind the Godot game engine. Perhaps sometimes a little too zealous. Maybe this comment section down below might illustrate that. Let's put it this way. It isn't generally a thing for Unity users to go into a topic video about Godot and cause stuff. Whereas the opposite, yeah, I can't say that being true. But the flip side of this is you have this passionate community that is there to help. So if you go on the Discord or the multiple Discords actually, or the Reddits, it's so much more active, and you can.
Yeah, again, it's because it's an open source. People feel like it's their own thing, so they own it in their opinion more than something that an investors and a company owns. So that's why people give them a bit more for like the things that are open source. Look at like or even highly modifiable. Like look at something like a Blender and Godot. That's why it gets like that.
Find that community of support, they're probably better than any of the other major engines out there. So again, a zealous community can be a double-edged sword, especially when it comes to like perceptions of an engine in its community, but you can't argue at all that the people behind the Godot game engine are passionate about it and generally will do a lot to help each other out as a result. All right, so this next one is going to seem like a bit of a cop-out because it's going to be a pro for both of them, and that is a robust set of tools. But you can't talk about Unity and not say it doesn't have great tooling. Unity has pretty much every tool that you can imagine.
That's right,
now,
but most commercial and not custom-made, small teams custom-made engine are robust in tools, to be honest. Even Game Maker, Unity, Unreal, Godot, it's like, I think this is something that needed to be in a commercial game engine more than a pro for them.
Now, some of them, of course,
it's just like the pros that a company put for their product for this very big list for the pro subscription. Like, of course, it should have a robust set of tools. Why the fuck would I use yours if it doesn't? And this like comes for every engine, by the way. We're talking about Unity, Godot, Unreal, Game Maker. Most game engines have a robust set of tools.
Ignored for far too long, and some of them are basically like retired without in all but name only. But basically, if you need to do something in Unity, there is a pretty damn good chance that it has the tooling for that. Also, on top of the huge tool set for things like animations and graphics and terrain and so on, you also get first-class C# support. Also, you have DOTS, the data-oriented technology stack, is now fully implemented, which got things for like doing parallelization of your code and so on. You've also got a bunch of supporting tools around it. So you've got ad solutions and analytics and lobbying and so on. So they've got their whole cloud side of things that may not be for everyone, but if you are looking for that stuff and you want it integrated into Unity, they have it. So when it comes to tooling, Unity is like really stocked in that area. And I would say that they have an advantage, especially in the world of 3D. They have probably better 3D performance.
Of course, yeah, I do agree. 3D in Unity is another realm compared to the 3D in Godot. In Godot, it sucks a lot more than Unity.
And they probably have broader and better 3D tools than Godot. But let's go over to the pros for Godot. Hey, they've got a robust set of tools. Yeah, so this is both a pro for both these engines. They're very well-rounded. Again,
yeah, but the robust set of tools for Unity in 3D is way better than Godot. Things also, I don't know if he mentions it in this video or not, the node-based in Godot is way better than the systems that are used like for Unity in the hierarchy. The node-based system is way more better, so that's something.
He has been around longer, has more.
We might
tooling.
mention
Again,
it in the
also
video
has
in the
more
future. I don't
abandoned
know.
tooling from the past. And again, I won't say that Godot is as robust as Unity in some areas and definitely in 3D, but when it comes to 2D, I think that Godot is eating Unity's lunch by the tooling it provides. It is so easy to create 2D games inside of Godot, and Unity has sort of been neglecting their 2D tooling, I would say. So my breakdown on this one is advantage Unity for 3D, advantage Godot for 2D, and then when it comes to UI and creating applications, like non-gaming applications, Godot really shines here. Whereas Unity, it's got its UI toolkit, it should get better, but doing UIs in Unity used to be a little bleh. Again, there is a new solution there, but this is one of those areas where Godot just banged, like really good there. So they both have a great and robust set of tools available. And then final pro on the side of the Unity game engine, kind of a bit of a repeat from the robust set of tools, but I think this is important enough to be on its own. It's got proven 3D performance, something that Godot really can't claim right now.
Yeah, of course, again, performance in Unity in 3D games, even for 2D games, is way more ahead than Godot. That's something, because performance, optimization, stuff like that,
And it's so
usually take more time to develop over an engine, because it's like the things that, it's like the salt on the food. You need to cook the food itself and then put the salt, the last touches. So it's not actually something that could be in an engine that is still developing. Again, Godot is more of an investment for the future, more than a very, very much of a ready engine to be used in commercial games, especially for 3D commercial games. Yet it's possible, it's very hard for most of people because of how it would be more complicated, because the engine is still not fully developed, in my opinion, for big commercial titles, especially 3D ones.
Especially with the dots and job systems coming online, Unity has proven itself capable of creating 3D scenes of level detail that Godot just hasn't yet. So again, if you're looking to create a 3D title and you've got really high-end needs, you're going to probably want to look at either a Unity or an Unreal Engine.
But again, if you are looking for a 3D game, firstly, why even going to Unity? Unreal might be better for you. So don't limit yourself just for two engines. Check out other options too. Even if you are working a very big project, check out even a custom engine option if you really need that.
Simpler implementation, you could definitely do it in Godot, but Godot just doesn't have that proven 3D track record yet. And now the final con for Godot, and this one it's staggering in this world. Right now, if you install Unreal Engine, it's something like 35 gigabytes.
Godot is a fucking 200 megabyte light framework that is confusing on how it's lightweight. Unreal 35 gigabyte is like nothing. When you make a big project, it's like, wow, what the fuck? And HDRB for Unity is the same, by the way.
Install Unity, depending on what you install, it's somewhere between like say 1.5 and say 7 gigabytes in size. When you install Godot, it's like 60 megabytes. It's got the smallest footprint you've ever seen. And you can run Godot on Android. You can run Godot on the browser if you wish to do so. Or you can just download it. Here's a little secret about Godot. I don't keep it installed. I literally just go to GodotEngine.org and download the most recent version because it's like a 50 megabyte download. It takes 2 seconds. It takes me less time to just download and extract it than it would be just to find it on my hard drive. And again, I obviously always want the newest version or whatever, but it is such a small download. The footprint of Godot is just staggeringly tiny, especially considering just how much is packed in there.
And the reason, by the way, for Unreal, it's because they have a lot of features. The reason is Unity implemented too much of a features that could be optional on install, that it's just confusing why these features that nobody is even using are still there and not an optional thing and being downloaded each time you download a version. Like, what the fuck? Having different render pipelines, stuff like that is very weird and takes a lot of the storage.
The pros between Unity and the Godot
Like, just
game engine.
make them
I think,
optional.
again, you can see how both these game engines are a good choice and where their strengths lie. Again, I think that the TLDR I would put in there is Unity has an edge when it comes to 3D, Godot has an edge when it comes to 2D. They both have pretty robust sets of tools.
No, I think
they both
Unity goes better in both, unfortunately, 3D and 2D, because of the long time support for these two. It's just that Godot is a better investment for the future, in my opinion, and it is very light and beginner friendly in like installing and stuff like that, more than Unity. And it might be a very again, it's like Blender when it first launched. That's my thought of Godot.
both have a pretty good sized community with different strengths and weaknesses in that regard. And yeah, that would be my pros. Now we're getting into probably where the controversy starts, and that's where we get into the cons. And this is one of those areas that has changed a whole lot since I first covered this like about 6 years ago. The cons. And the biggest one is, let's start with Unity. And Unity is straightforward. Unity is publicly traded. And that isn't said about any of these other companies.
Yeah, it makes decision making for the engine sucks way more.
So Unity is the only game engine that is from a publicly traded company. Even Unreal Engine is privately held. So they're not beholden.
That's why Unreal Engine have a very good decision making than Unity.
Market to making share prices go up, etc. And we saw this when Unity had their IPO and they went public. Then they went on a tear of like buying companies like Weta Digital and so on, and then they merged with Iron Source, and all these things were stuff to keep shareholders happy, not game developers happy. And this shareholder first attitude bit them and bit them hard. If you have no idea what
and it's because the CEO is fucking stupid, to be honest.
Talking about, they did this thing called the runtime fee, where they basically just wanted money from everyone that ever created a Unity game ever. It was ludicrous, and it cost them most of their C-suite. Their CEO is gone, most of their board is gone, their stock price absolutely cratered. The runtime fiasco was insanely stupid. I would actually argue it was the single dumbest thing I can think of in the history.
One of the stupidest thing ever happened in game industry at all, and it's just because putting a very bad, stupid CEO into the work of that he does not even understand how it works. In a company that he know nothing about, in an industry that he know nothing about. By the way, go read the CV of that fucking CEO. He did miserably in multiple companies.
Development. That's a pretty hard level of stupid, I would say. So that all stems from the fact that ultimately they're beholden to shareholders before they are beholden to everybody else. And that is going to shape their future direction as well. So that is a definite negative when it comes to Unity. And I know that's why if anyone moved away from Unity in more recent years, it probably wasn't technical. It was probably more stuff like this, or EULA
they feel more restrained,
etc. So
in the future.
That them being a publicly traded company and having very, let's say, mixed allegiances for what their priorities are, that is a big deal. Now the good news is the new CEO seems to be going with a developer focus. They seem to be all about becoming smaller and more nimble and not chasing these idiotic
I agree, the new CEO is way better, but again, people just don't trust the future. What if a dumb CEO comes, oh, my fucking video games are now done? That's why they did the switch, so it's okay. I do understand people that don't want to use Unity for that reason.
Iron Source or Weta, etc. So hopefully we're dealing with a new Unity, but you got to remember what happened, and that's got to be at the back of your mind at all time. All right, so let's go with Godot. We also could argue that Godot sort of has the opposite problem in that Unity is a big company with a lot of people there that do things like public relations and so on. You know, even when the top level people screw up, yeah. But there are at least a number of layers of people in the middle saying, is this a good idea? Well, in the world of Godot, it's not quite that simple. So in Godot, you have just a person, just a person in charge of the public relations. And that person can make some very bad decisions, and those can have a political fallout as a result. So in the world of big companies, you do have a PR person going, is this a good idea, before something goes out
Yeah,
to the
but
public.
PR suck, as we all know, and they just love sucking up to their bosses. But one person with the open source project, if he did something that people don't like, they would just go and delete the fucking functionality out of it. So this is something that people understand well. That's why it's more trustworthy for the future than Unity.
Though that isn't necessarily the case, and it has led to, let's just say, a little controversy in the past. And on top of that, there is also a little bit of a thing developing with the leadership of Godot, in that Godot is a community-led project, and a lot of the people behind Godot are now also at a commercial entity called W4 Games. Now, those are some of like the founders and heads and so on. They're still contributing back to Godot, and that company sponsors Godot development. But at the same time, they are making things closed at that company, things like console support. And you can get console support through other means. But if W4 Games didn't exist, would we have had console support available in open source Godot? And, you know, there are some arguments why they couldn't implement it, but then you look at other open source projects, or near open source, like say Defold, which has console support, and it isn't an issue. So you have that kind of a divided loyalties with the leadership of Godot and the formation of W4 Games. And then again, we also have potentially a lack of the professional safeguards when it comes to social media, etc., that you have at other companies that don't necessarily exist at Godot and can get Godot into a little bit of hot water. Now, back to the cons for Unity. Now, this is kind of a flip side to a pro for Godot. Unity is closed. There's no other way to look at it. The source code on, say, for Unreal Engine, it is source available. So if you use Unreal Engine, you can access the entirety of the source code. You can make changes, you can do patches, etc.
Not
when you
full
do with
changes.
Godot, it is
They
fully
are,
open source.
They are like, there is a limit for Unreal. Of course, like Godot is first place, Unreal second place, Unity is the fucking third place.
So that means you can do what the hell you want with the source code. When it comes to Unity, you can't contribute to development or anything like that. You can get a custom fork of the source code. So there are definitely companies out there, such as like Gauge and Impact. They have a license that has given them the source code. And at this point in time, they basically have their own version of the Unity game engine going on. But there's no contribution back to the main source base. In order to get access to Unity source code, you have to give them
just like
a lot of money.
Gatekeeping.
Basically, it's a negotiated license. That's just the nature of the beast. Something to be aware of. And yeah, that is one negative for Unity. It's definitely closed. It's the most closed of the engines in that regard, between the big three anyways. Now, when we come back to the Godot game engine, this is an opposite of a pro for the Unity game engine, is a lack of hardware support. So unlike Unity and Unreal Engine, Godot doesn't necessarily have companies in there on day one working with them. Now, the nice thing is more companies are reaching out to Godot and helping make support for their products. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like, so with if a new VR headset is launched or whatever, you can guarantee that Unity and Unreal Engine are going to support it. You can't necessarily say the same about the Godot game engine. Also, the open nature of Godot means that implementing proprietary tech, and this again is part of W4 Games' arguments for why console supporting needs to be through a closed company. Well, that is a challenging thing. So you can't implement proprietary tech as easily as you could, say, with a closed system like Unity. So when it comes to hardware, at least compared to the other two platforms, it just doesn't have the same level of out-of-the-box support. And that is, again, if you're developing for a console first, like you're creating a PlayStation 6 game, or an Xbox, what are they going to call it, 4B? Who knows at this point? But let's just say the Xbox
new release,
or whatever, you want to support it on day one, you're better off picking a Unity or an Unreal.
Yeah, of course, yeah. If you're looking for support for multi-platforms, as we said in the first of the video, just go for Unity or Unreal.
Reality of it. And then final con for Unity, and again, this isn't comprehensive, so this isn't all the pros, this isn't all the cons, but these are the TLDR versions in my humble opinion. The most important things, it's commercial software, and that, what does that mean? Well, it means you're paying for it. Is that a bad thing? I've got nothing against paying for software. You know what? If you get value out of it, you have to pay for it. But at the same time, let's keep in mind, you have to pay for Unity.
Again,
And
as I said, you're gonna pay salary. If your project already hit the threshold, you're gonna pay your salaries. You're gonna pay people that sustain the game, the marketing, way more than the seats. Don't put that as a very big block if you are hitting the threshold of 200. If they did not do a stupid fee thing they thought about, it's just gonna cost you nothing compared to other costs in the budgets.
Gotten one of the upsides to the whole runtime fee fiasco is the free tier got more capable, and they removed the idiotic splash screen requirements, so you could do a lot more for free than you used to be able to do with Unity. But at the end of the day, if you're working on a project for a commercial client or something like that, you need to pay per seat per each person in, where if you're using Godot, you simply would not have to. Again,
yeah, but that's the same for Unreal and most game engines. It's yeah, I understand why people are coming from. If they don't trust the company, that's totally fair. But again, don't put it as a barrier in your mind if you're gonna do a very big commercial game or a very small game that's never gonna hit the threshold, in your opinion.
I have no issue with charging for software, and that is the way that Unity
Because
is
most
set
people
up.
don't even
But
hit it,
at the
by
same
the way.
time, when you're trying to pick the merits between two solutions, and one is completely free, and one has a monthly cost attached to it, that's obviously an advantage for the one that's free, right? So again, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
of course
that
it's an advantage, but
that it's a
of course it's an advantage. But again, don't put it as a barrier, like a very very huge barrier for yourself to limit your creativity and where is the best engine as tools for you.
negative against the product. I just want to point out, again, there is a price tag attached to Unity that there may not be when it comes to Godot.
Like even if it was
and to a
Unreal,
certain degree,
many people told me, oh, 5% royalties, oh, it's on 30% with the Steam and the publisher. Just go buy a seat if you think you're gonna hit over $1 million.
the Unreal Engine does theirs only after you make $1 million in revenue. So that is a negative when it comes to choosing license fee attached to Unity that other engines don't necessarily have. And then the final con of the Godot game engine, and this again is a mirror of what I was saying as a major pro of the Unity game engine. It's much less proven. That's simple. Again, no one got fired for choosing
Yeah,
IBM.
again, but it's an investment for the future. It's a con that there's no much of big commercial games made, and Godot what is gonna be in the future. So it's an investment. You can make that investment if you want. You could get a very good reward if you do it from now, a very amazing asset library, and prove yourself to be one of the first people that made a very big games in that engine. It could be a bad investment. We never and cannot ever know. In my perception, it's gonna be a very good investment if you did it. Definitely, if you do not have a constraint that make you work with Unreal and Unity, you could try to make games in Godot if it fits your needs. So yeah, an amazing game for games from scratch. Definitely go and check out this channel. Thank you a lot for watching my content, and see you in the next episode.